Hey, fourth grade art friends, it's Mrs. Herbay. Um, I just wanted to demonstrate the next step of our bird project this week. I hope that you were able to draw your bird and then transfer it, tape it onto the piece of metal, and then trace back over it with a pen. Now, what I am doing right now is I'm going back and I'm looking at my bird drawing and I'm looking at the picture that I used as a reference. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if there are any details that I might have missed that I want to include, because the more details I have, the more interesting the texture of the bird is going to look. And so I'm just going to do that. And I'm also going to make sure that I pressed really hard. So if there are some lines that I can't see very well, I'm going to go back over those with my pen as well. So the first part of our project, we're just kind of gonna go over our, like sort of go over, look over our artwork and then kind of sort of be a, sort of give it a little critique and then just see. And I was noticing that some of these lines here were not super dark. I just took a stack of, my son had a lot of math, old math work that he had from his note. It was like a stack of notebook paper. You can use like a stack of papers. You could use sort of a pillow of newspaper. But the important thing is that when you are going back and you are adding the birds, when you're going to draw back over what you drew with your pencil, with the pen, you need to make sure that your artwork is sitting on something sort of softer. So like a piece of felt. I know at school we would use like a couple pieces of felt, but it could also be like, this is just a stack of notebook paper. You could use a stack of copy paper. You're not going to ruin the paper at all. You just need it sort of as a pillow, because if you just left it on the hard surface, there would be nowhere for that metal to pop out into. And I know that we talked about this a little bit last year in third grade when you guys did your metal hearts. So sometimes working on something, it can be exhausting, and so sometimes it's nice to just go back. So I'm just going back, I'm going over some of my lines, and I'm looking, and I'm gonna look and see like, oh, maybe I could put a little bit more texture here for the bird's to denote the bird's feathers. Our friends at school this week will be starting to draw their birds. They're a little bit behind you guys, but one of the things we talked about was making the bird look like it had feather texture, and you can see kind of all these like little lines here. And by adding these little lines, it's kind of helps the bird to look like it has feather texture. And then I'm also going to look and see sort of down here, I didn't include as many of sort of like the little white marks. So I'm going to go ahead and put some more of those in as well. So go ahead, take a look at your bird, see where you could make some minor improvements or adjustments. Also look and see where, make sure that your lines are really popping out. And if they're not, like I noticed, oh, it could be a little bit more pronounced there, then just take your pen and you can go back and then see. Now I see, oh wow, yeah, that's popping out a lot better. I can do a little bit more up in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and you go ahead and look over yours, and then after we're happy with our birds, I'm gonna tell you the next step after that. All right, guys. Now the next step is going to be adding some color to our bird. And we are going to use Sharpies. Sharpies work really well on metal. Now the only thing that you're going to notice is our bird is going to be reversed because our drawing was facing this way, but now we're going to flip our artwork this way. But that's okay. We can still kind of figure out. So the back part of my bird's head has this little white or red area in here. And so I'm going to take my red Sharpie and I'm going to color that part red. And the beak is kind of like a gray color, so I'm going to sort of have a gray Sharpie. It's kind of like a bluish gray color. And around the eye, it's kind of black. And then this whole area right here is black, and then so is this area up in here. And then I have a little bit of area that's kind of underneath the mouth. It's kind of there. And then I have this wing, but I'm not going to color the circles that I kind of outlined. You're just going to take your time. Depending on your bird, you may have a lot or a little to color. And if you want to take some creative license with the coloring of your bird, that's okay too. Depending, you can color it realistically, or you may choose to color your bird if you would like to a little bit more imaginative colors. That's totally fine too. So I'm going to finish coloring my woodpecker, and then I'll show you what the next step is. Alright guys, now the next step is that we're going to actually cut our bird out from the metal. So what you want to do is you want to unfasten the tape like this, and if you want, you can save your drawing, put it aside, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to carefully take my scissors and I'm just going to cut around the outside of my bird. And if it helps, sometimes what I like to do is if you just kind of bubble around the bird at first to get rid of some of the excess metal, that's helpful. So I'm just kind of bubbling around. Okay. And if you wanted to make any little small things out of the rest of this metal, you could. You could do a little drawing, tape it to here, and do another little relief if you wanted to. Just be careful because this metal is sharp and it could cut you if you're not careful with it. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my scissors now that the metal is a little bit smaller. I'm just going to carefully cut around. And then there's kind of like a little tricky spot in there. So see how I just kind of cut the triangle there? And if you have trouble, you don't have to get super, super close to the edge in some spots if it's a little bit too tricky. There, so I'm just going to leave that like that. And then I'm going to leave a little bit of foil around the outside of the bird's feet because it's a little bit trickier. All right, then I'm going to come up. And then I'm going to come around here. If you notice, to get in sort of those pointy areas, if you come in this way and then if you come the other way, then it helps you to just get the corner so that you don't have to turn the scissors around in that area. So see how I'm coming down like that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along this other flat side and then just make my little snip there. Smooth that out, and I have my bird cut out. Now what you want to do is with these extra little metal shavings, you want to make sure you pick these up, and so I'm just gathering them up, and you want to make sure you throw those in the trash so that somebody doesn't get poked. And then once you're done, I will talk to you about the next step, or the final step for today, and then you can get started with it. All right, guys. For the final step today, what you're going to do is you're going to grab the black paper that also came with your materials, and what you're going to do is you're going to position your bird on the black paper, and you're going to kind of think about the background. We're not going to work on the background this week, but you're going to think about, this is my woodpecker, right? Is he on like the side of a tree, poking a hole, or is he like in this picture, he's just standing on a branch? So is his body more in this position? Is his body kind of diagonally? So you guys can kind of you'll figure out like the position of your bird. I think I want to have my bird kind of going in this position, and then you want to try to kind of center it so that it's roughly in the middle. It doesn't have to be exactly, but you want to kind of make sure it's roughly in the middle. Okay, so that's about where I'm going to position my bird. Then what you're going to do is you're going to turn it over, and if you have Elmer's glue, that's going to work the best because we kind of need to have some glue in between the paper and our relief. You don't want to put a whole ton on, but you want to kind of go around the outside edges, and then I'm going to put some here in the middle. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over, and then I'm going to place my bird on the paper. Now, we don't want to press too hard, and here's the reason, is that this is a relief. So if we squish it too much, then we don't want to push in our the relief that we carved into the metal. And then what you're going to do is just once you have it attached like that, then you're just going to put this aside for next week. And then next week will be the final week, and I'm going to hopefully, I'm not sure if I have enough, but I'm going to try to send home some silver Sharpies with you guys, or some other material that's going to really help the background stand out when we do the outline and make it look super cool. So if you have a silver Sharpie, that would be great, or if your parents can pick you up one. But if you don't have one, I'm going to figure out maybe how I can make that happen. So I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you have fun with this, and I look forward to talking to you on Monday when we check in.